I think reflective practice is really important because it helps you grow and understand, not only as a student, but as a new grad and then as a clinician and therapist and wherever you end up. For myself, I really have two ways of dealing with reflective practice, and that's, reviewing back and analysing what happened and what went well, what didn't go so well, what I could do next time. And I usually go about this one or two ways. The first is just writing it all down. I like to write things down. The second is taking advantage of, when I was a new grad, my supervisor sessions and really talking about it and analysing it and going through it step by step and seeing, where maybe I could look at it from the patient's perspective a bit more. Like an example I can think of is when I've spoken to, a patient about a particular treatment and I've felt this would be really beneficial for them, but that's just something that they just have not agreed to, and I just could not get on the same page as them. So I'd go away and I'd think about it, I'd talk to my supervisor and even my fellow colleagues about this. And what I would try to understand is, maybe try to put myself in the patient's position and see why we weren't able to connect on that and able to think, okay, well, next time maybe I'll try and do this instead, and change my approach a little bit from person to person. And that's something that I find is really important with reflective practice. It's also important in times of stress. If you have a patient or a client who maybe becomes a bit upset, even aggressive, it's really important to be aware of how you handle those situations because they're going to come about. And reflective practice is really important to start from early on because when times get stressful, it's the first thing to leave your mind, and it's really important to keep that with you because that is how you'll grow from each scenario and each situation as you get faced with it.
I'm pretty comfortable saying that I think I'm a good teacher. I know that my students like learning from me, but I don't walk out of any lesson without thinking about, so there's something that I haven't done well, or there's one connection I haven't made with a student, or I know that student didn't understand that particular thing like I wanted them to. And there's always a way to improve, or to, not necessarily improve, just to change to get a better result. Because these kids aren't robots, and you'll end up having 25 kids in front of you at one stage, and there's 25 different ways of learning that you've got to understand and use to your advantage, so to speak. So reflective practice, to me, it's almost a lesson by lesson thing as I walk out for teaching, but it's also done in the other roles that I've had. So as the State Panel Chair for Health Education, we have 2 or 3 major events each year. After those events, I'll spend normally a week just thinking over how I did what I did and why I did what I did and what I can change for next year and how I manage that group a little bit better. So it's critical. If you don't reflect, pretty soon you'll just wash out at the bottom.
Reflective practice is extremely important. What you read in textbooks, what you see in diagrams, what you think in your head will work in a gym setting or in a client-based setting. Half the time won't work. You can't control what comes out of people's mouth. You can't control what happens on the other 23 hours of their day, 6 days a week. Often too, you'll adhere to guidelines of exercise prescription, but you'll be thrown curveballs by what people say, by what people do, and even group dynamics if you're running a group program. Some people prefer to work in individual settings. Some people prefer to work in group settings. And that's when you really have to use your reflective practice of looking at things as you go and making changes on the spot as a clinician. Also too, like if you're running a group program, you want to question yourself always in how you can do something better. You always want to be a better clinician, and how you can do that is only through reflective practice. After you run a group, what went well, what didn't went well, and what you can do better. And it's not about criticizing yourself and saying what you did failed. It's just about using client feedback, which you can actually even ask to assist in your reflective practice. You can ask the clients surveys, questionnaires, what went well, and then not only are you being client-centered and holistic, but you're able to then increase adherence and work on reflective practice and implementing things that are more in line with what the client wants and more in line with what's going to effectively work. So many times I've run a group and things have, looked okay, and I've got 10 stations set up, but it's too much too soon, or they're fatigued, or they can't get through the amount of exercises I've prescribed. That's when I have to have a look at myself and go, no, you didn't fail. You just maybe were a bit over-ambitious, and maybe we can take it back a bit and look at reflectively saying, okay, it's best to start small and then expand, because that will increase confidence rather than start huge and then shrink, which might make people feel like they're failing, if that makes sense.